We are live! Hello, every pony! Welcome to a live special presentation of the Keeping Friendship Magic podcast, the podcast that takes a look at all things fandom and social science through a lens of experience, and I'm getting a lot of eye movement from the rest of them while I try to introduce. This is going to sound great for the audio cut. Anyway, we're where real world social science meets with fandom and pop culture and pony, because we all love pony here. I am your host, Forward Progress. Thank you for joining us this evening. I brought some extra special folks along to share in this evening. We'll start here with the one to my left.
I'm Nova Rose.
What an introduction.
Yeah.
You always know how to impress.
I am sleepy. I am sorry.
It's okay.
It has been a long week.
It has been a long week, but we are happy to share it here with all of y'all at Vanhoover. Digitally, through the powers of the internet, we can still see each other. Yes, through that box that you did a very Pulp Fiction thing there,
Right.
So speaking of which, I'd like to introduce our Uma Thurman for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Thoth Penswell.
Hi, yes. I'm Thoth Penswell. Currently trapped in a box somewhere in upstate New York. This isn't my usual location, but it'll suffice, and I'm excited to be here again. It's been a while since I've been on a Keeping Friendship Magic. Really excited to talk with y'all, especially with friends, because I love everyone on this podcast right now. So I'm really excited. It'll be like hanging out for an evening.
Exactly.
Just recorded as panel entertainment in front of people. Joy.
You know, normally for live presentations, people always say about imagining your audience in the underwear. What do you say for online presentations?
I imagine the computer in underwear.
That's great. Well, last but not least, by any stretch of the imagination, is the wonderful burb that, depending on how you're looking at the screen, might be to the left or to the right, but it's the one and only Baja Griffin.
Hi, everybody. I do convention art and art stuff, and I guess I'm also known for tax fraud now, so that's a thing. Thanks to y'all at Ponytown. It's so wonderful to be here. So heckin' excited.
It's very exciting. So that how Baja introduced themselves really brought us into what I wanted to talk about for this episode of the podcast, and that is conventions. Let's face it, guys, we are at a very interesting time when it comes to the land of conventions, particularly in the Brony community, but also outside of the Brony community here. I wanted to bring everyone here together. The little anecdotal title I've come up with for this episode is, So We Staffed a Convention. So, recently, myself, Nova Rose, and Thoth here staffed our first in-person convention just a couple of weeks ago at the one and only TronCon in Columbus, Ohio. Give it up. Woo woo. Anyway.
Anyway, that's my line.
What? Oh, anyway is your line? Did you take that over?
I just say anyway. I don't say anything else.
You just say anyway? Thought those other
I just
three
say
words?
Nope. Nope. Luck gets those ones. Other me gets to say those ones.
So you get to type the word anyway, and then Luckrock has to come in and type "come to TronCon."
Don't tempt me. I'll put it in chat.
But
it's my classic catchphrase anyway.
So
that's me.
But we also got to work with Baja Griffin on staff for TronCon, but also knowing that Baja here has also helped staff other conventions. You've done art for several of the pony conventions now. I'm not sure how many you're up to, but I know you've done work for several.
At least over 10 conventions, and my first being the actual final BronyCon. So It's been a wild adventure since then.
So what I wanted to start out here is, obviously at this point we're kind of, I guess you would say, convention veterans. We've presented, we've some of us have done art, but we've also attended too. So I guess the first question I want to throw out to all of you is impressions you've received about how you feel about conventions now that you've staffed them compared to what you felt about them when you were just an attendee? It's a big question, but I figured I'd start broad and we'll get more specific from there. How has it changed your perception of conventions and the convention scene? We'll start there.
If no one else goes first, I can go first.
We're all too polite here.
Yeah, right.
Too shy.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. I'll be the sucker. No. As someone who a few years ago, and I've told a couple people this story, as someone who a few years ago was very much gung-ho about only panel content, I said it to many people, including Forward, you here. You could quote me on saying, I'm never going to staff a convention, because I was always very scared of the idea of needing to balance staffing and working for the convention with doing my own content at the convention. And then at the end of TrotCon, Summer TrotCon earlier this year, Darkly comes over to me and Luck and says, we're going to announce you two as the new social media heads. And if I can give you one bit of advice in terms of staffing TrotCon, it's you don't say no to Darkly. You don't tell Darkly no. So I went, oh yeah, sure. But it's really, that was really an amazing opportunity. But in terms of what has kind of changed my perception from when I wasn't staffing and just running content to running content and staffing, you definitely appreciate the fires that you didn't need to put out. That's the main thing, is that you notice a lot more of, oh god, there's this thing that we need to fix now. Some things are more open than others, and some things are, hey, this is just a thing we knew about. But even then, with how tight-knit that staff was, when there was an issue, you knew about it, and you needed to help fix it. Even if it was just me, where I was social media and panel team. Definitely it's a lot faster and a lot less free time. Obviously, that seems like a no-brainer, but a lot less free time. I think the only places I was at was panel rooms, con ops, hotel room for all of Trot. And that was a different feel. It was very different. It was very different, but I won't knock it. But it was different for sure.
Definitely different. Anybody else want to speak about your perceptions?
I know for me it was definitely interesting because usually at conventions I think I spend more time with the people that I'm with than I do pretty much anything else. But then staffing the convention, it was like I got to, I feel like, enjoy more of the convention itself, like the different panels, like especially ones that had like the voice actors and stuff.
And this was for you staffing more this time.
Yes. So like, but on the flip side of that, like I didn't feel like I had time to spend time with like my friends and stuff because I was constantly running around.
Definitely. We walked a lot. I believe I clocked over 25 kilometers on Pokemon Go that weekend, so. So, let me bring it over to Baja here before I slide in about things you've noticed since you started staffing more.
It's weird because I was given the ability to do panels since I was a very young child for some reason. But it was fun. And like it was so weird being a kid and just like all of a sudden you get this whole packed full room of people who just want to do a pony panel. I was doing pony panels at an anime convention for literally years because I couldn't go to a pony convention. So I provided pony entertainment where there wasn't any. And it's definitely so fulfilling to now be a part of helping make things happen, even if it's just doing artwork. But I went to a convention right after Cider Fest just for one day, and the same one I've been doing panels at for years, and I was just like, why am I not doing anything? Why am I not packing sponsor boxes? Like, why am I not helping chairs or any of it? It was just like felt so weird and like empty, not staffing a con now. Now it's like HarmonyCon is coming up, and I'm like, oh wait, what? Wait, it like threw off my whole group of like, I'm so used to staffing now that's like I can't go back to just like not staffing.
You know, there's something about that. I'll speak from the perspective of being a panelist that I've picked up on. And I'm almost wondering if staffing is kind of like that. It feels like a drug, but not necessarily a bad drug, but a kind of a, how do I put this? Like a good metaphor almost, because it's like you start out doing one, and then you kind of like, I want to do this more. And then it's like, not doing it feels weird.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's similar to the way that someone describes like an adrenaline junkie, I guess, where you're hitting that high and you want to keep doing that, getting that feeling of, oh, I get to talk to people with a microphone in front of me. Like I often when I'm sitting there running a panel, I don't take that into regard, but every once in a while I'll pause and I'll be like, we're like the most powerful person in this room at the moment because we're 2 feet higher and we have a microphone in front of us. But that really, there's like a value to that, and sometimes I have to stop and be like, this is an interesting position.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if I know how to be a regular attendee at a convention anymore. Like, I don't think I could do it. And I think
last time I did it was like 4 years ago. Yeah.
I think it comes in several places, right? Because you have that sense of, there's a part of you that wants to almost dive in and do something just because it kind of becomes part of your nature. And I think it happens especially in this community. And not to, just tout us up like we are the end all be all of anything, but like, we are the type of people who would do that, I think, by nature, of wanting to step in and help our friends. And I feel like in this community in general, that's where you're going to see it a lot. But even if I'm but I think actually, no, now that I say that, I think I want to say I feel that a little bit more at pony cons than I think other types of cons that we go to. Because I do anime cons as well, and multi-fandom ones, and I love doing them, but I feel like there's something special about a pony convention. I don't know if it's just the idea of just fellow bronies, bronyism, and that shared kind of collective goal of what makes a brony. But I sense more of that between staff and attendees. I mean, would you guys think that's fair to say? Or not dissing other conventions, because I love the anime conventions I go to. I think there's just something about pony conventions. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I agree.
Odds. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say some of the best convention experiences I've had. There's always like a very blurred line between, like, you don't feel this stark this disconnect between staff and attendees. It feels like there's some con chairs have put it really well. It feels like a family reunion kind of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that separates you from staff is that they wear special shirts and they can tell you when to get against a wall sometimes. That sounds threatening, but it's not.
I have never told anybody to get against the wall.
I have not either. I have had to tell hundreds of attendees that they had to come back in 2 hours for their sponsor boxes many times, but I did not have to tell them to get against a wall. Didn't have to do that.
Part of our staff powers.
I gave them swords. I did give our attendees swords. That was a good time.
Foam swords, everyone.
And a real one.
There was that one?
At the end of the weekend. There was a real one, and it went for $800. It was great. It was pretty hype.
So, a couple of things that really struck me. And I think about this as my first Brony convention or fan convention period was in 2014 at BronyCon. And you fast forward to now. Now we're in 2022. presenting at a convention. And obviously things change over time, and your perspective changes with the more you get in there. I think I had a very different perception of what a convention was when I went to my first one versus what I think it is now. And I don't know if part of that's just me or how much of that is just speaking to the power of the sense of what a convention is and the magic of
friendship.
Well, yes, but what the people behind the scenes go through to put it on. I think I said once upon a time that a convention is successful if it does two things above all else. One, breaks even money wise, and two, doesn't has an experience, not that there was no fires to put out, not that there was nothing going wrong, but such that the attendees didn't really notice because the staff was working on it. That if you have those two things, you ran a successful convention.
Well, let's just keep better eye on the catalytic converters.
I was going to say, that was a fire that we could not hide. That was a very public one.
That's a thing. That's a good thing to bring up, too, about multiple things. First of all, the power of this community, the fact that, and if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, at TrockCon, and apparently this is a thing that is happens in Ohio, is people go around with hacksaws, not like a common thing, but there are some people out there who are desperate for money and will go around targeting old Hondas and cut off with a hacksaw your catalytic converter. Apparently, if you know what you're doing,
very valuable.
You can do it in 3 to 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. Sneak in under someone's car, do it, and run. And it happened to our good friend Inky Notebook from the Traveling Pony Museum, who's an amazing human being, by the way. Shout out to Inky. We love you.
Go follow them.
And also voice actress as well.
Mm-hmm. Talented one.
Yes. So, but that happened before the con even started. And that's one of those things, that's obviously not anything, it's beyond the con's control, Of
course.
But nevertheless, we were all running out, checking everyone's cars, talking to people. The police had to be called.
Yeah.
All of that.
And what it also did is it set back to talk about the inner machinations of the convention that night, too. We were busy putting together sponsor boxes because they're really fancy, ornate sponsor boxes that we put together for Trot. That's not a shameless plug. That's just a plug. But we're putting them together, and that news comes down, and it's like, all right, everyone just stop. So then what it comes to is that I'm being told, because I have to PR that, so if you were following the TrotCon Twitter that night and getting the information, that was me who had to PR that. That was fun. But we had to change the time that pre-reg was going to start, which was fun. We had to push back when everyone would get the sponsor boxes, a whole bunch of different things. And the interesting thing is that I don't know if everybody at that convention even knew that happened, because there were still people asking what the deal with the catalytic converter references were by Sunday. So some people didn't even know that was a thing that happened.
And for those of you who don't know, by the way, over the weekend, there was we did what we do best in this community, and we turned it into a meme. And there were meme t-shirts you could buy. All the proceeds went to benefit Inky so that they could get a new catalytic converter on their car. And they left on time, raised all the money just from the generosity of this community, which was amazing. But that's one of those big things that goes to show about the nature of conventions, about unexpected things are going to happen. And
definitely
more so now than ever before, right? And this is one of the big reasons I want to talk about this, is our friends at Vanhoover here just had one of the most, my heart broke seeing what was going on for the folks at this convention. Getting British Columbia to basically get a spike in cases and having new government mandates and things within less than 2 weeks of the convention, I believe, and having to pivot to online. And this is one of the things about the world we live in now. So I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts about that as we move forward here, about the level of what makes a convention, and as much as we want in person, kind of how we all feel is the status of conventions in this crazy time of ours. I see the brains are spinning.
Everyone has thoughts. If no one else does immediately, I can talk, but if someone else would like to go first, go ahead.
Did you want to go?
I could say something small about how, like, if we keep having to go put off conventions, like, I just kind of worry about, like, financial future? Because...
Yeah.
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 Especially if the the contracts with the hotels and stuff and all that.
Well, and that's a big discussion I think we need to have.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And that I don't know, and this is one of the things I learned about staffing compared to just being a regular attendee, is just how much goes into putting a convention together. Because let's talk about this. What is a convention at its core? At its core, a convention, I almost feel like, especially a fan convention, is a meetup on steroids, right? Like you were getting a bunch of like-minded people together in one place to hang out, talk, and with around a central theme. But I speak about this as somebody who used to help organize a meetup group, and we got to that point where our local meetup group kept growing, and we, where it was just us hanging out and having movie nights at each other's places, it turned into, there's so many people, we need to go book a venue to host something like this. So we're booking places at parks or this or that. And looking at conventions now, I think about that in a similar tone of the more at its core, I think a lot of fan conventions really boil down to that. TrotCon was birthed out of the Ohio Bronies meetup scene. Even BronyCon was birthed out of New York.
Yep. Oh, I was going to say Bronies NYC, which I'm still technically one of the current co-orgs of, kind of. It's a little bit weird at the moment. It's hard to have meetups right now. But, co-organizer there. The original BronyCon sprung from here, the original iteration of it, and PonyCon NYC, if anybody remembers that. That sprung from Bronies NYC. Actually, the house I'm currently staying at is one of the co-orgs of it back in the day. So, yeah, it all springs from that sense of community, and it starts from smaller events. And then once from there, it becomes, well, is it a thing that you can expand upon? It's definitely always good to start it from small. Always start small. Don't immediately jump big, because we've seen what happens there. I don't need to talk about that.
But the core... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was done.
The core of cons, especially that are not corporate-based, is community. It's all of us. Like, we're not a big corporation. We don't have bajillions of dollars. A lot of these cons are just breaking even. Or Ponyville Cider Fest, most of the over 70% of the income the con got was through through sponsorships, for being a sponsor at the con. It's we don't do this for sort of fame, but there is no fame in the pony community. But horse famous is not really a thing, it's...
That's gonna be whole other episode we'll do at some point.
But the thing is like, we do what we do for these conventions. If I charge my normal rate, like if artists charge professionally, these cons would go broke in a millisecond. But we don't do this for money. Like, I work 40 hours a week doing convention artwork because I love what I do for the con and to see it happen, It's, because the core of it is the community. We're all helping, coming from all over the place just to make this happen. And it's absolutely amazing seeing the effort that we all put together.
Yeah, as someone who, if people don't realize it by now, because I try not to mention it too much because I don't I don't chase the clout. I am one of the man, gosh, I'm one of the co-heads of TrotCon social media now. Me and Luckrock took over from Kevin with that over this summer. And I can speak to what you're talking about, Baha, where I will sit there and tweet official TrotCon Twitter stuff from my desk at my computer at my official job at a news station in New York City. Not because I get paid for it, but because it's fun. It's fun to search up weird cursed horse imagery and then tweet it with a tinge of officiousness and go, hey, you should register for this con because I tweeted this picture of a horse sitting in your bedroom. So, that's fun for me.
Not
so,
just-
Yeah, definitely.
Not just
Any
bedroom,
bedroom.
your bedroom.
your bedroom. I know.
But like, that's that thing about this too, is that was a big thing I had to learn, because my first convention was, of course, the biggest Brony convention. This was BronyCon back in 2014, which was not a record attendance year, but it was really high. And I'm seeing thousands upon thousands of people all coming together, some of these big names and things, and I'm just like, whoa, like, this is the coolest thing. And almost thinking, like, there must be some cash cow behind this, pulling this whole thing. And then later it's like, that's not how this works at all.
Well, I mean, eventually, if you want to get down to the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon of it, you could trace it back to Hasbro, but,
Well, yes, but Hasbro's not funding these conventions.
Except HasCon.
Okay, well...
One.
One, yes. They got as far as one.
We
Well-
got the drive, we got the power,
But
and we
let's
took
talk
what's ours.
about that fact, because there was only one HasCon, which I can understand a company like Hasbro seeing things that happen, because there are conventions, fan conventions for more than just Pony as far as what falls under the Hasbro umbrella. You have things like Transformers that have a convention scene that also falls under that umbrella. So you can see where people would get, like, you could see putting that together and almost seeing dollar signs out of it. But there's kind of that thing about a corporate run convention versus a fan run convention. I think that's a big thing I want to talk about, because the day that I corporatized, I would completely get out of the game.
Well, I think the big thing with it is, and this also goes for G3, because I know that's in trouble right now, is unlike, say, TrotCon, like, those conventions are meant for the investors, not for the attendees.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. So it's like there's going to...
It's like a trade show.
Yeah, so there's going to already be a different atmosphere than...
Well, exactly. And I think that's the thing about this, is at the end of the day, what we want more than anything else out of these is a sense of community, right? Like,
Yeah.
I go to a convention to get jived up, like, to get energy and to share a message and all that.
The spark.
And no, 100%. The spark that Twilight had at the beginning of the series, that's what it is. Because, there's something about getting that close connection with people, getting to hear people say they enjoyed your content, seeing other people's content that you enjoy, dancing with people you would have never met at the concert, things like that.
Seeing how the show brought us all together.
Well, and exactly. But it's all more in the name of community, and I think that's a big thing to keep in mind going forward right now, the way the convention scene is, because things are so uncertain right now. With the virus, like, there's no way around it,
the Backstreet Boys
reunion tour, yes. As
they
the
came
Game Grumps
back.
put it.
Again.
There's never just one goodbye tour, right? The goodbye tour just gets extended. But
You were going to say something, Baha?
The cancellation of the cons, attendee perspective, it's like, yeah, it sucks I can't go, and my friends, but like, I'm a vendor, like, my livelihood is on these conventions. I had to cancel a convention that was happening this month, and it tears me apart because I can't get a refund or anything. But it's so hard because I've been going to these events because that's the only way I can make some sort of income, and it's so hard, especially with the current cases. You know, the balance of staying safe and needing to, make a living, is also put into account.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this is we've kind of, what starts out as kind of a glorified meetup becomes something bigger, right? Yeah. So, and it is at that point where you do have people that are, full-time artists and vendors who do depend on this, which shout out to our vendors. Please visit the vendor hall on Discord. Trust me, the artists on there have some amazing products. If you got a spirit badge here, hook up Baja, who has some amazing Izzy pins you should totally check out. That's my thank you plug for coming on the podcast. There you go.
I have to see these pins.
But anyway.
He literally paid you an exposure, Baja.
But also these cons, it's hard canceling last minute because contracts can. People don't realize that there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. That a con may want to cancel due to safety, wanting to keep the community safe, but can't because they might end if contracts get broken. So it's also something to keep in mind. That's
a big thing I want to talk about here is the reality of timetables that I don't think a lot of people understand at first. There's usually very much a big push for early bird registration. And let's talk about why that is for a second here. The reason behind that is a lot of these things need to be booked well in advance. You want to book a hotel. You need to book that in advance. You need money to put down to book a hotel in advance or a convention center, what have you. And those contracts are done up usually a solid year in advance. So things like a virus popping up, little hiccups here and there, it's almost impossible to plan for.
Account for that, yeah.
Some things will happen and you have to move past them, but then there are things where you can't move past.
And you have cases like the current one where it's a very fluid situation, constantly changing. It makes, because I've seen some say, why would they sign a contract when they knew the current situation? Well, it was a year ago. The situation a year ago was extremely different from now. You can't predict it. You can predict it now. I mean, you can't predict it now, but you can look at how a situation is going and predict from there. But you can't predict.
There's a phrase for that. Hindsight is 20/20.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and
it's true.
You have some other conventions like
2022.
Here's an example is Sequestria Fest was supposed to open up in 2020 and they have yet to have their first convention because of all of this. And it's things like that where you have all these plans and then, with something outside of your control, it gets pushed back. And a lot of the ways that things are happening is in order to try to make something happen and where no parties in breach of contract or anything, you end up trying to reschedule for days. And you keep pushing it back and pushing it back within the realms of legally what you can do, because the ramifications are, if you don't and you break it, you could risk the con not existing anymore, going bankrupt.
That was a thing that happened with, I don't know if everyone's been following the situation with, I want to say it's Further Confusion?
Yes, yes, you're
okay,
right.
Cool.
Shortened to FurCon, yeah.
Yes. They had to cancel a bunch of their events in the previous couple of days, and then straight up, it shocked even me as someone who I don't follow the furry fandom and furry convention circuit quite as closely as the pony one, but they announced just the other day that they are canceling the convention outright. Not a venue thing, not a county ordinance. They canceled it, which I give them credit for looking out, massive amounts of credit, heaps. for looking out for their attendees' safety and their staff's safety. At the same time, though, me and everyone else looked at that and we were like, is that convention going to survive doing that? That's because breach it, like we're talking about, and many con chairs and pony fandom have talked about it. Breach of contract is it's scary. It's a lot of money too.
It's a lot of money.
So to the people who were going to attend that, maybe there's crossover here and that. Support them. They are going to need it. I seriously hope that they can continue, and that other conventions that may get affected and may get forced to potentially postpone or cancel, I hope their attendees support them monetarily too, because they will need it. It's really unpredictable right now.
Yeah.
You know, I hate being serious like that, but it concerns me.
Well, that's one of the things that's so scary right now, because like all of us love the convention scene so much. That much is obvious. Yeah. There's a reason we put so much of ourselves into it. And I think that's the reason why it's hard, and I would argue a lot harder for people like us when we see what's happening, because we kind of know from our experience, especially now having staffed, what can happen / will happen. So when we see negative comments online about conventions or why they're doing it or why they have to do COVID policies or things like that, that hurts and that stings, because it's like nobody wants to have to force people to wear masks and show vaccine cards right now. But the reality of the situation is we have no choice. You know, like the only way to even run right now is to have some kind of policy like that, or else you're basically risking almost everything. A lot of townships still have mask mandates and such. So even things like that, where it's a bummer. It's a bummer to have, you know, to do that and to, you know, feel almost like you have to police people. Now, granted, in this community, what I've seen so far of it, I've seen great things. I've seen great things at the conventions. People have been very respectful, want to keep each other safe, want to keep this going, and I love that. And that's one of the things I love about this community in general.
Well, that's why, like, I talked about this, I think, maybe in the podcast, how, like, I was kind of expecting to have to, like, keep pulling people over for, like, not wearing the mask or whatever, but I didn't have to do that a single time, and I was very happy.
And Pony conventions, the ones that since coming back to it, Ciderfest and Trot, people have been really good about it. I've heard, I could count maybe on one hand the amount of times I've heard that there was maybe someone that had it off for a split second, and you know, that again, one hand I could count between 2-3 conventions. So they've been good about it.
Yeah.
Keep being good about it. And even when, you know, whenever it's safer, consider doing it anyway, because there's a lot of people in the community who are immunocompromised, who need that protection. We really appreciate them. Show that appreciation, because you know, it's
also,
and that's why I feel when people have talked about it on Twitter and everything, there's been a lot of discussion about the safety guidelines in place. I won't go into all of it because it's a whole mess sometimes. But that's why I am very vocal about that sometimes, because it's not just there as a thing to follow rules. No, we're being considerate of everybody in the community doing that.
Also,
we're being considerate of their safety.
Also, if you're not sold by that, like, I think this is the longest I've ever gone without ever getting a cold. Like, I haven't had a cold in over 2 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you know, we do this to protect each other, your friends, the guests of honor, community guest staff, the people that help keep these communities running. You know, we have saw what this can do to our friends and family all around. You know, I lost someone that was really important to me last month, and that could have been prevented. And so I just hope that we can all play our part so we can have fun times and safe times with each other again. Yeah. Because I don't ever want to go through losing more of these wonderful people in this community because of what's going on in the world right now.
Absolutely. I think that's
yeah.
it's a big thing to say right now about kind of how the development we've had of what we're doing right now, the online convention. Online conventions will never be the in-person, but when we can come together still as a community and do something, that speaks volumes that, like, what it means to come together in this community, that, gosh darn it, even if we can't do it in person, we're still going to do it somehow online, right?
And it also brings conventions more accessibility. As someone who is disabled, there's a lot of people who can't go to cons. And it's not just accessible for those who have disabilities, but all over the world. And I hope that online cons can still exist one way or another. It's not going to be as big and booming, but it brings accessibility to places that, they can't be here with us at the con. And I'm glad that more conventions in the pony scene are starting to do hybrid entertainment and having these PonyCon events, because it's absolutely amazing seeing how many people at Everfree Northwest closing ceremonies. There was such a large number of hands of people that this year was their first convention ever, their first pony convention ever, and it was just so amazing seeing how far these can also bring more people in. From near and afar.
We had a similar experience at TrotCon. We asked at opening ceremonies, and man, the amount of people who shot their hands up about it being their first one, it's incredible. Like,
it's opened up a world to a lot of people. I was going to say earlier when you were talking, it's I quite like the idea of beaming our content to people across the world. It opens up to a new audience, definitely. We've seen a new audience come in on panel content and conventions in general. And now there's people who are coming over from other countries and other continents who are like, I've never been to TrotCon, Cider Fest, Everfree. I want to go now.
Well,
and it's like,
yeah,
yes, let's do that.
Yeah, heck yeah.
It's like, I was very emotional. Anybody who was at TrotCon saw me get incredibly emotional at closing ceremonies.
I was gonna goof on you at a certain point, but I was like, no, this is important. This is emotional happening. I'm not gonna goof him.
I was very tired at the time, but
yeah, we were all tired.
But beyond that, it was the power of that convention. It was the first in-person convention I had done in about 2 1/3 years or so. And in that time, doing the online convention scene like we've been doing, I've been able to meet people online, digitally, interact with people from all over America, Canada, Europe, Asia, you name it, and Australia. And then, like, getting to meet some of them people in person and give hugs was just like, just the emotion of that. Of like, it's you're real, you know? There's a power that's built, and I'm so happy that Vanhoover was able to make the transition online and have us and ask us to help out with the event, because it was truly a pleasure to be able to come in and help out.
Honored to even be mentioned. Apparently we were mentioned, and I was like, that's neat. You don't even need to offer us a panel. That's just neat that you said our names.
So I feel incredibly blessed by this community and also by the convention scene. And I think that's the big thing right now about, we can be angry about the way things are. And we can start to be like, oh, I'm tired of online cons. I've heard that too. Especially last year. And the thing is that for some people, that's their only outlet. You know, they might not have a local brony group. They might not have a lot of people around them to hang out with. But then a couple times a year, if this online event pops up. And so I think that is the future of conventions, maybe, is this hybrid model, because let's look at this. This isn't about making money. It's about bringing people together in the end. And yeah, do we need to make money at a con? Yes, enough to cover expenses. That's a goal. That's most conventions' goal, is to make enough to cover expenses. Because you gotta book a hotel space, and then you gotta get the equipment, like AV equipment, staging equipment. You gotta get which like that was a trip this year. Of I was the person who set up all the panel rooms at TruckCon. Like, so I'm actually pushing this big freaking cart full of AV equipment around, sweating my butt off, trying to set up the rooms. But is it a hassle? A little. Would I do it again in an instant? Yes, because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for community, and so is everyone else there. So, that's where when we're asking for money, when we're getting people together to do these things, it's not just to take your money or just to have an exclusive event or something. It's like, we want to bring as many people of the community in as possible. We want to keep them safe, and we want to make like as memorable of an experience for everybody as humanly possible.
Yeah, definitely. And even if you can't go to these conventions, a way that you can help support the con is by getting a spirit badge. A lot of people had no idea that they can support the con, and we try to offer some goodies to go along with it, that shipped right to your home. So you get a little piece of the con with you as well.
What's funny? I staffed TrotCon and forgot to get my TrotCon shirt before I left. I ordered a Vanhoover spirit badge, and I'm like, watch it now. I'm gonna get my Vanhoover shirt before I have the shirt of the con that I
Vanhoover.
Which is not an issue. I'm gonna be back at Trot in July, so I'll get it.
Oh, what's a spirit badge?
Ironic.
Oh, someone asked what a spirit badge was. Well, usually, on conventions' websites, they have a tier that's called a spirit badge, and essentially what that is you're supporting the con, and sometimes you get a lanyard. Essentially, you're like there in spirit, so your support would go a long way. You get a badge and possibly a con book, and some cons like to add other goodies that you can do, and it honestly helps us so much to help keep these events going.
Immensely, because the thing is like, there's a reason we ask you to buy money. We talk up sponsor boxes because it's what makes it happen, and the sooner the money comes in, the bigger and better an event we can make. Because remember, again, like I said, these takes planning, contracts, negotiations, dealings, hopefully above the table dealings, but just what I mean, like the everyone has to put in some effort. And I gotta say, I give mad props to those. I know, Rose, you were one of the guest handlers, for example, at TrotCon. So, that's part of it too, is making sure that we can bring on a staff and a team of people who are gonna make sure everyone is having a good time and staying safe. And that's a big role.
Like, I know, especially like during the autographs, I know like Ellie got that big just haul from Party City, and just we tried to go make the autograph table like a nice fun place where everyone could just kind of chill while they wait.
There is that thing of almost sometimes having to be in a tough position there too, of the part of your job is making sure everybody keeps their time limits and things, and like you almost don't want to tell anybody bad news.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing before we have to wrap up, because I think we got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, dang, already.
I know,
Went
it goes
quick.
by so fast.
It really does. That's another thing.
The power of the convention seemed to inspire, because I know it did me. And I definitely want to speak to that, but I figured I'd give you guys an opportunity if you wanted to speak on what the convention scene has meant to you.
Without conventions, without me stepping in the BronyCon, like if you guys saw my panel earlier, it changed my life. I wouldn't be doing art full-time. I wouldn't be doing convention art full-time. It's a giant volunteer gig. But the support, that I got from it keeps me going, and mental health, it helped me so much. And now I got to meet these wonderful friends here. And I I never really had friends. I never got to say the word friends really until this year, and it means so heckin' much. And I just want to thank y'all for creating such an unforgettable experience. And I came late in this convention game, but hey, I'm enjoying it so much to spend time to be with everybody here.
Oh, who put this bowl of onions here?
Onions
No.
have layers, my dear fox.
I have layers. I'm an ogre. Hi, wow, I'm really embodying TrotCon there. Yeah, similarly, I was a very different person before I started running programming, found conventions, ran programming at conventions before I was asked to. If you ask 2012 Thoth to run TrotCon Twitter, that'd be a very different Twitter feed. But through all of that, through running content, finding a way to express myself, finding a way that I could make people laugh and entertain them, that was invaluable, you know. That really did change my life for the better. I work in television now, mostly because of me finding that it was fun to work in that field, and through video editing and through putting together and producing content, you learned how that world worked. And without that kind of experience, without the community and the convention spectrum building that confidence in me that I could do that and, you know, communicate with people, and without being able to communicate, I wouldn't work with the great people I'm working with right now, and in all the other panels that we've done with Rift Ponies and everything. If conventions didn't happen, I'd be a very different person. And I think I'm very proud of where I'm at because of conventions now. I have a great gig running a Twitter feed. That's a lot of fun. I run it with Luckrock. Luckrock's incredible. That's an immense amount of fun. It's an immense amount of fun getting to run programming and goofing off with you all at every convention. That's what drives me. Just planning and putting together content that drives me even now. You know, the world is a bit messy, but knowing that I get to do that every month or two, that gets me through some really rough patches, especially now. I less said about that the better, but you know, having the friends through that and working with them has meant the world to me, and I hope I can keep doing it. I'm still really committed to it. I plan my life around it now because I love it. And I love you guys.
How do we follow that? Rose, would you like to?
All right. After you.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how conventions have inspired you?
I mean, I think I can definitely echo both you and Thoth, where it's like I had a really bad fear of public speaking, and now it's essentially completely gone, where I can run onto main event stage and dump glitter on y'all.
Literally.
And it's just like
Dressed as Shrek.
I look back like 5+ years ago, and I'm like, I would have never been able to do that. Now it's just like there's the feeling of community and just all of the friends. I made so many friends. It's very surreal.
You know, I'll just do this for a moment just to make everybody happy here. Hang on.
What?
That was fun.
That was fun.
So,
I sat there waving a yellow towel over my head for
I
5
couldn't
minutes. It
believe
was
him
great.
for that. So, okay,
I decided on it.
We're very close to time, so I'm going to try and contain myself as much as I can. At the last live edition of the podcast, I talked about going to my first Brony convention in 2014 and how it literally changed my life. The people I met, the community I felt and experienced, people I had never met and probably never would have met were there. and I just hung out with them, and we felt like a family. And I met Grayson and Michael Morones there. That just really moved me about people just being mocked for who they are and what they like, and that we can be better. And because we have this community, we're going to be good, because, you know, we can do that together. We can stand up for each other and help each other out. And I just, you know, I started this little project, and here we are all these years later, and now I'm on a quote-unquote stage, a digital stage, presenting this to all of you, and I never would have thought it. And through the online con, I've met so many people. Through in-person cons, I met so many people from all over the world, people I never would have expected. You know, I've got friends in Europe and Australia and Asia and all these places, and I've met some of them in person, which is amazing. And that's what keeps me going at the end of the day, is that this community will survive and this community will push on, you know, as long as we can do our part together and respect one another. The convention scene will keep going. I know some of these cons, like TrotCon, as long as people keep coming, it will never stop. I believe in the end, after the nuclear apocalypse, there will be cockroaches, Share, and TrotCon.
Yep, we'll still be tweeting. We'll be tweeting cockroach clicks. You know, it'll be great.
But
don't make me tweet that. I just said that. I put it into reality. I wish I hadn't said that.
I love you guys in this community. I believe in every single one of you. You came here. You attended this panel today. You guys are great. And you guys are the thing that's going to keep this community going. So keep believing in this community, in yourselves, and in magic. And that's what it means to be keeping friendship magic.
You brought it around. I liked it.
So I want to thank all of our guests today. Give you guys a chance to pimp your stuff. Thank you, Baja Griffin, for joining us.
Hi. Yeah. Thank everybody watching us.
And Baja's in the vendor hall, so check out their great wares in the vendor hall. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed.
You will not. They've done incredible work.
Thank you, Thoth, for joining us again.
Not a problem. If you want to see more of my trash, you can follow the TrotCon Twitter, or you should also come to TrotCon. Yep, staff conventions, including TrotCon. And follow at Riff Ponies on Twitter. That's the pony comedy group that I do content for. We make funny horse noises. We force people to read bad fan fiction. We drink. It's pretty great. Pretty good. You should follow it. Or not. I don't know. Anyway, come to TrotCon.
Lastly, thank you, Nova Rose.
Yes, thank you for having me. You can go find me over on Twitter at Nova Roselia, and
Twitch as well.
You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Nova Roselia there too.
That's true, because we got two VTubers here. We've got a Baja and a Nova here.
Yes, this is my meat suit.
And I again am Forward Progress. If you like what you hear from us, you can subscribe to the podcast. kfn.buzzsprout.com is our podcast hub. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/KFM, and a Ko-fi, which I think is ko-fi.com/keepfriendmagic.
Go support it.
Yes.
Please.
Do
it.
Every dollar goes to keeping the project alive and hopefully getting us to more conventions and doing things for you guys. But one last thing to close out. Thank you all. I love you. Support your conventions however you can. Staff them. If it's
do it.
Staff.
Volunteer to staff, please. We need all the help you can get.
Think about presenting programming. If you have questions, people here will answer you.
Even be a gopher.
Even if all you can do is just support with word of mouth, that's enough. The bottom line is let's support one another and move forward together.
Yeah.
And with that, thank you all for watching and have a fantastic day. Enjoy the rest of your con, and we'll see you tomorrow for Mad Lib Pony Theater.
Heck yeah!
Good evening, y'all.
Good night, everyone.